Sometimes when you wake up in the morning, I say wake up, I should say sometimes when you're groggy in the morning, right? Sometimes when that alarm goes off at 4 a.m. and you're going, oh man, you have this internal war on the inside of you of whether you should get up or whether you should stay in the warm, cozy bed, right? And that war, that internal war goes on, and there's this great invention called the snooze button. And so a lot of times we'll reach over and we'll hit that snooze button. But after we hit that snooze button, you know that you've already heard the alarm. So after you hear it, there's this war, and your left eye says to your right eye, I'm not opening up first, you're opening up first, right? And Mr. Right Eye says, no, I opened up first yesterday, you're opening up first today. And there's this war going on, and then your left arm says, to your right arm, well, you pull the covers back and get out of bed. And your right arm says, no, I'm halfway asleep because I slept wrong, And so there's this war going on in your members. There's this internal war going on. And then your legs become restless, and you'd have been better off if you'd have just jumped out of bed, right? I mean, that's the best way. If you hit the snooze and then you're fighting, there's this war going on the inside of you between your members, your legs, your arms, your eyes, and Mr. Right Leg and Mr. Left Leg and Mr. Right Arm, left or Mr. Right, eye and left eye. They're all fighting against each other. And believe it or not, that's kind of similar in the spirit to what happens to us. In James, we see here that James tells us that there is a war going on in our members. And where do wars come from? Where do they come from among you? Do they not come from your desires for pleasure that war in your members? You lust and do not have. You murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight in war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask amiss that you may spend it upon your own pleasures. There's this battle that's going on in your members, this war that's going on. And I began to think about who wins the battle, who wins the war. It's the one that is the strongest that wins the battle in the war, right? Because even in bed, right? You're laying there and in bed, your right arm, your left arm, your legs, they're all fighting on who's going to be the first one to get up. But the one that wins is a Mr. Bladder. Mr. Bladder finally says, we're getting out of bed or there's going to be a problem. And so Mr. Bladder wins the battle, the war of your members, right? Because he's the strongest one. He's the one that you're listening to, because if you don't, there's going to be a big problemo, right? And so today we're going to talk a little bit about one of the most important words in your life. How many of you want to know what one of the most important words in your life is? It's not money. It's not power. It's not fame. One of the most important words in our lives is a word called consistency. Matter of fact, Johnny made reference to it today. He said, I've been in church 12 straight weeks. That's consistency. Don't go preaching my message on me, Johnny. Right? That is being consistent. And I think that in life, the problem is that we don't have a consistency. And I was in Oregon this last week, and I was sitting there all by myself, and it was a hard week, and it was tough, and I was praying about this Sunday because I said, Lord, when I get there, they're not going to want to hear that I have fireworks for them. They're going to want to hear that I have a message for them. And the Holy Spirit dropped this word, consistency, in my spirit. And began to deal with me about the fact that most Christians are not successful because they're not consistent. Most Christians are not mature because they're not consistent. Most Christians struggle because of an inconsistency. It has nothing to do with the lack of power, because you have power. When you choose to plug into the power, you have power. See, the only thing that allows power to get to this church from the main power source in Fairfield is the ability, or I should say, is the only reason that it can get from the main power source to us is because there is a consistency in the lines. If there was a cut in the lines, an inconsistency, it would stop where the inconsistency was. In our lives, we have a lack of power, we have a lack of resource, we have a lack of joy, we have a lack of peace, we have a lack of, of substance because we have a lack of consistency. And where the consistency stops in God is where we need to go back and say, I need to be consistent again, and I need to go 12 weeks, and then 24 weeks, then 36, then 48, then 5 years, then 10 years, then 20 years. I need to be consistent in my walk with Jesus, because if I'm not, then there's a cut, and there's a stoppage of what God's trying to get me to. Consistency is important. Coming to church every week is being consistent. Giving your tithes to God every week is being consistent. In a marriage, telling your husband or wife what they mean to you is being consistent. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. February 14th, giving her roses does not make up for being a jerk the rest of the year. Well, I'm going to help you, ladies. I'm going to help you. On his birthday, don't worry, man, we're getting there. On his birthday, doing for him whatever he desires. Oh, glory to God. Come on, married people. Doing that doesn't make up for you disrespecting him the rest of the year. I'm enjoying myself. Ooh, glory. Consistency. You know, parenting is hard, but really it's all about being consistent. You can't discipline a kid once every 5 weeks and think that kid is going to learn how to act. Man, there are some spoiled brats in the world today. I mean, I was, those of you who don't know, every year we run several fireworks tents so that we have 86 that I'm connected with, but I don't own all those, but I'm connected with these ministries that we do missions work and, unwed mothers and send kids to camp and all this. And so I'm in Oregon this year and I'm doing this fireworks tent in Oregon, the one I was at. And this kid, his father had a basket full of fireworks for him, probably about $200, but he wanted one more. And he said no to that son. And that son said to him, "You are mean. You're a horrible father." This kid's about 5 years old. I said, "Please let me have just 5 minutes with that brat. Please. Please, I beg of you." But I wanted his money more than I wanted to teach him a lesson. Because there's people in Africa that need that money. And I said to him, I didn't say to him, I thought to myself, this kid's 5. When he's 15, he's going to be completely unruly. He's going to be a mess. He'll be a juvie. He'll have done some crazy. Because if you don't turn to him at that moment and teach him a lesson, the problem is you can't do it later. You have to be consistent in it. My mom and dad were so consistent, they didn't even care if we were in church, they would discipline us. I remember one time sitting in church, and my mom's favorite thing when we were in church was if we acted up in church. Because, see, it's not like that now. Nowadays, kids act up in church, and parents are like, "Oh, that's so cute." We would act up in church, and when we would act up in church, my mom would reach right over here on the inside of her leg, and she would pinch right here on the inside of her leg. And then she would turn to say, "If you say a word when we get home, it's going to be worse." And believe me, it was if you did worse. If we got in trouble in Sunday school, when we got home, we got it twice. Consistency. We knew we were, if we got in trouble in Sunday school and we had to be sent to the big church, we knew when we got home that it wasn't going to be like, "Oh, that's okay, we'll let you go this time." No, we knew it was consistency. So one time we're in church and I'm no dummy. Don't put myself beside my mom, put my friend beside my mom. Right? Out of reach, out of harm's reach. And so we're worshiping, and mom's got her eyes closed, and without a beat, my friend starts acting up. Without a beat, her eyes closed. She thought it was me. She reaches over, grabs him, pinches him, and he just screams. He screams, and she goes, And it was him. And I was like, hey. Oh, don't worry about it. I thought I was dead when I got home. Don't worry about it. I was like, consistency. See, consistency comes into every area of your life. If you want to be okay financially, you need to learn how to consistently be a steward of your money. You can't charge up all your credit cards and then think that you're going to be okay financially. My wife and I had to learn this lesson. Listen, I'm not telling you something I don't know. When we first got married, we had to learn this lesson because we wanted all the new washer and dryer and the new this and the new that and everything else. We wanted everything that every couple has. So we got ourselves in huge financial trouble. I used to live like this. We had a line of credit connected to our checking account that could go $500 in the hole without you being sent to jail. And so what we would do is we would take that line of credit all the way into that exactly $499.99. I'm not telling you something I don't know about. I know what I'm talking about. It's a way better life now than it was then, not living like that. But we had to learn consistency and how to be a good steward because we were always givers. But listen, just because you're a good giver, God will not, He may come through for a miracle every once in a while, but God will not over and over and over and over bail you out because of your lack of stewardship. Yeah, glory to Jesus. So consistency is important. This word consistency, this thought of being consistent can completely change your life. I'm in bed. I don't want to get up on Sunday. You're warring in your members. What do? Get out of bed. Go to church. How many of you would say that there has been something just in this church service that has made you laugh? See your hand. Okay, put your hand down. How many of you say there's something been done in this church service that just gave you a little bit more joy than when you came in? Let me see it. See, now listen. If you were not consistent, if you decided I'm just going to miss today, you would have missed yourself, your soul, being charged up by the Spirit man and having an excitement in you that will help you now throughout the week. So then last week when you may have missed, right, because a lot of people missed on 2nd of July because they were gone for this and that, and I understand that. I was gone. But you know what? Last week just wasn't quite as good as it is when I started with Jesus on Sunday. A little different. Consistency. So that word consistency is important. So I'm going to talk for just a minute about two things that consistency does for you. Let's look at Exodus chapter 16 real quick, and then we'll go here, and then we'll do a few more verses, and then we'll let you go home. Exodus chapter 16, verse 1 through 3 says, "And they journeyed from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after they departed from the land of Egypt. Then the whole congregation of the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Israel said to them, 'Oh, that we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the pots of meat and when we ate bread to the full, for you have brought us into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger.'" This is not my message, but I want you just real quick to take a mental note. They were in the wilderness of sin. The word sin means to miss the mark. They weren't even supposed to be in the wilderness. They were supposed to be in the promised land already. And when you sin, when you miss the mark, when you date the wrong person, when you have anger in your heart that you don't deal with, unforgiveness that you don't deal with, when you have sin in your heart, you're living in the wilderness of sin. When you're living in that wilderness of sin, I want to tell you something. You can't clearly see what's really going on. So they're making statements here that are untrue. They said that we wish we were back in Egypt where our pots were full, where our bellies were full, basically where the Egyptians were so good to us. We wish we were there. Because when you're living in the wilderness of sin, when you miss the mark, listen, when you're headed toward Jesus and something gets you off and you miss the mark, you cannot see clearly what's going on in your life until you get back to heading toward the right mark. Because you're focused on the wrong thing. And when you're focused on the wrong thing, you're constantly inconsistent in your spiritual life. And so you're blaming others, and you're blaming the church, and you're blaming God for why you're not growing the way that you should be growing. But really the problem is you're living in the wilderness of missing the mark. Now watch. Look at the next Exodus. Watch this. So they said it was good there. Really? Go back to Exodus a little bit. To the verse. It says, the next one. Go to the next Exodus that I had for you, where Moses went. And the Lord said, watch this. This is back, I'll just tell you where it's at, so you know. It's Exodus chapter 3, verse 7. It says, and the Lord said, this is to Moses, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt. Now, here's what's happening. Now we're going back to when they were still in Egypt. Remember how great it was? And I've heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up from that land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. So they're now out of Egypt. They're out of this place where God delivered them. And now they're in the wilderness whining and complaining and saying, I wish we had been there, because they're in the wilderness of sin. They can't clearly see. And they're saying to them amongst themselves, why did you bring us here, Moses and Aaron? Why did you bring us here? It would have been better if we had been back with full bellies, where our taskmasters were kind to us. But when they got out of Egypt, they didn't feel that way. Isn't it funny how when we get out of sin, glory to Jesus, everything is better. We feel joy and peace, and our lives have been renewed, and our minds have been, and things are going great. And then we begin to slip back into the wilderness of sin again. And we go, it was better in sin. But it wasn't better in sin. You got to remember what it was. Sin was horrible. Sin was hell. Sin would kick you and beat you up and stab you and kill you if it could. Sin would puke your guts out at 3 a.m. in the morning. Sin would leave you with hangovers. Sin would cause you, your husband, your wife, your kids, your family. Sin is not good, but yet when we're in it, we can't see it clearly. Why? Because we've missed the mark. We're inconsistent in our walk with Jesus, and so because of that, we begin to have that consistent line of communication with God begins to get cut off because we're living in the wilderness of sin. It was better. Really? Is that why you cried to God that, please deliver us? Give me a break, man. I mean, come on. Right? Have you ever talked to somebody and you want to say, are you stupid? You don't want to say that, because that wouldn't be very nice, Stephan, but really you want to say that like you're thinking it. You got to be careful what you think, because the Bible says out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Sometimes you might just say, are you stupid? Did that come out? Did I say that out loud? Sometimes you just want to ask people that question, because it's not that they're stupid, but the way they're acting is stupid. Because it wasn't better back then. So if it wasn't better back then, why, when we get a little bit of relief from it, do we want to go back to it? Why can't we just, when we start serving Jesus, just be consistent, step by step, by step, by step, by step? It was better there. It was easier there. Really? No, it wasn't. So here's what happened. God hears him. Exodus 16 again, the second Exodus 16. Watch what happens. Then the Lord said to Moses, behold, I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you. And the people shall go out and gather a certain quota every day, that I may test them, whether they will walk in my law or not. And it shall be on the sixth day that they shall prepare what they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. Here's what God said. He said, it wasn't enough that I delivered them from Egypt. When I sent you to deliver them, Moses, I was sending them where? To a land that's flowing with milk and honey. Now they're stuck because of their inconsistent living. Now they're stuck in the wilderness of sin. So I'm not taking them. I'm not going to do a miracle and take them to the land of flowing milk and honey. I'm going to have them sit right where they are, but I'm going to feed them bread from heaven. But here's how I'm going to do it. Watch what he's doing. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it in a way that they have to consistently every day go out and get it. Consistency. He said, I'm going to test them. God wasn't testing his own power. He had the ability to be able to take bread, to drop it on the children of Israel, and for it to last for days and months and years if he wanted. Because the Bible says in the wilderness their shoes didn't even get bad. Like their shoes didn't wear out. So he had the ability to do that if he wanted to do it. But he was, see, when God does stuff in your life, it's never because of a lack of ability on his part. It's because he's trying to teach us something that will help us in our future. He's trying to teach us. And so here we see that he says, here's what I want to do. I want them to go out daily, and they're going to get just enough bread. Just enough. Every day they're going to take it in, and they're going to eat it. And then the next day they're going to get up, and they're going to do it all over again. And the next day they're going to get up, and they're going to do it all over again. And don't you dare, God said, try to get more for the next day, because I'm not worried about feeding your belly. I'm worried about teaching you something that I want you to consistently live by in your life. See, it's not enough for you just to come Sundays and get your spiritual feed. It's not enough just to get your food from me. You need a consistency every day. Your legs are shaking, your arms are shaking, your eyes are saying, what are we going to do? You need to get out of bed and be with Jesus in the morning for just a few minutes, if that's what it is. But you need to get up and consistently be with him. So they would take of it. And in one time they took too much. And they put it in their tent. And it turned into worms. And it stunk. How many of you know that when you try to do it on your own, the reason things stink in your life is you're just trying to do it on your own? Can't you see that the things you're trying to do are turning to worms and stinketh? That's King James, they stinketh. Man. Come on now. So they tried, and Moses said, what's wrong with you? Again, are you stupid? I told you, go out Monday through Friday and gather once a day. On Saturday, gather for 2 days. I love God. Because about the time we try to put him in a box, say, okay, every day I'm going to go get what I need, God says, no, I'm going to switch this thing up now. On Saturday, you're going to get 2 days. Don't get 3, don't get 1, get 2. So if Vernon normally eats 1 Big Mac, you get him 2 Big Macs on Saturday. But you tell him he can't eat both of them on Saturday. He's supposed to eat them on Saturday, and then 1 Big Mac is left for Sunday. But God, it may go bad. See, a lot of times our inconsistencies are because of a lack of trust that God has the ability to do what he said he would do. I gotta hurry. You guys, I gotta hurry. Here we go. Now watch. Okay, so I told you I'd tell you 2 things real quick. I want to talk about these 2 things that we need to understand. Consistency. Here's the reason why consistency is so important. Consistency brings command. Consistency brings command. You have command of the things that you consistently do. Webster says that this word command is to have authority and control over, to be able to get. See, command is what you have control over. When you're constantly inconsistent, you don't have command of what you think you do. I'm my own man. I'm in control of my life. Really? Let's look and see how consistent you are. Then I'll tell you whether or not you have control of your life. Because if you're not consistent in your life, then something else has control of your life. When you're disciplined, then you have command and control of your own life. Now, I know this isn't popular, this isn't fun, but I want to help you because consistency is important. Golfers, hit thousands and thousands of shots in order to go to a golf tournament and maybe hit 200 to 300 in 4 rounds. But it's the thousands of consistent shots that determine whether they hit 250, 270, 300, or 350. It's the consistency on the range. It's the consistency in practice. It's muscle memory. That's why I can shoot the lights out in basketball, because it's consistency. It's constantly, it's just sitting there and jaying them all day in practice. Drink. It's just consistency. It doesn't matter. Left-handed, right-handed, eyes closed. It doesn't matter. It's consistency. It's that. I mean, my brother knows. He's been on my team many times. Anthony, you can attest, right? It's consistency, right? It's like when I feed you a rundown in the post. All you got to do is turn to these young guys and consistently take them to the hole, and they can do nothing about it. Consistency. Consistency. Listen, y'all that have watched us, you know it's true. All these young guys think they're all that, and they can take us old guys. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. We still got the win. That's all we need is the win. You got boys in college. You got boys playing varsity high school basketball. You got boys that think boys that could dunk, and yet the old guys took them to school on one day in our lives. That's all we needed was one day, baby. I'm sorry. I know that it's not right to boast. But when you know what? That whole son discipline thing, that thing's getting ready. That thing's getting ready to come out right now. Okay? All right. Consistency. Consistency is important. What you're consistent with is what you have command of. So if you feel like your life is out of control, you need to learn how to be consistent in areas. Spiritually. Well, I'm just not spiritually mature. It's because you're not consistent in your spiritual maturity. Sunday mornings won't make you spiritually mature. You know what Sunday mornings will do to you? If you don't live for Jesus Monday through Saturday, Sunday mornings will frustrate you. Well, I'm going to preach for a minute. The reason some of you are so frustrated when I preach is because you're not doing what I tell you to do when I'm preaching, so it's frustrating instead of it being illuminating and exciting. And, oh, this is so great. Did you hear a pastor preach? I don't want to hear a pastor preach. I don't even want, I've had people say the only way to get free from the word is to quit the church because I don't want to do what the word's telling me to do. But, when you're living consistently, when you're building spiritual maturity, and the word of God comes forth, it is like a charge of energy that just kind of shoots through you, and you can run through a troop, and you can leap over a wall, and you can kill giants, and you can take on lions. You can do anything because you're being consistent before the word comes. But if you're not, all it is frustrating, Irene. Just met her today. I'm so glad you're at church. Glory to God. Got to baptize the first day I met you. Consistency brings command. It brings command. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 through 27 says, "Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but you do it an imperishable crown. Therefore I run thus, not with uncertainty, thus I fight." Watch this. Watch what Paul's saying. "Not as one who beats against the air, but I consistently discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself become a castaway." Wow. He says disqualified here. I'm not fighting like one again. I have consistently disciplined my body. I've consistently brought my body under subjection so that when I come up against tough times, see, it's never the moment that overtakes you. It's never the moment that causes you to have failure. It's never the moment that one, oh, it's just that one. No, it's never that. It's never the moment that you come down to the altar and you have that great experience with God. That's not the moment that keeps you. That's not the moment that grows you. That is a moment in God that is awesome, and we would never want to give it away. This moment of baptism is all it will be for these candidates that were baptized. If they fell away from Jesus tomorrow and went back to living for the devil, all that was just some kind of a ritual that we do where we dunk them in water. But they're not going to do that, because they're going to consistently live and mature in God and grow in God to the place where this is a catapult that they look back on and go, wow, that was awesome. Because why? Because now I've matured and I've looked at where I'm at. When I met Jonathan, the one who invited these three, and then they invited Alexis, when I met him, he wasn't the man he is today. But he spiritually matured because of consistent Christian living. So now the things that he has command of are different. They don't have command of you. You have command of them. I bring my body under subjection. It doesn't want to run 5 miles, but if it doesn't run 5 miles, how do I ever think that it could run 10 in the race? Consistency. That's what you have command of. Second, consistency brings confidence. How many of you know confidence is important? Consistency brings confidence. There are so many people in the family of God with a lack of confidence. And I began to ask God, why do people have such a lack of confidence? Why is that? Some have a lack of confidence from things that were said over them when they were children, or things that happened to them, or some people have a lack of confidence just because their personality is that, and they have to let God help them to get over that. Some are just naturally introverted, and so God has to help them to have a boldness, and God has to help them to overcome some things and to be able to, some have that. But I found out that really confidence has a lot to do with your consistency. Because watch this. There are some things that I could go and I could just be good at, like I do once a year and I'm okay at, like horseshoes. You can throw horseshoes, no big deal, right? I mean, yeah, there's another one. I set you up. I let you, Goose. I set you up. Now listen, I ain't your daddy, but I can still take my belt off. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. Now listen. Something you never do, but you don't really have confidence in it because you don't do it. You're just hoping, like bowling. Oh, I hate bowling because I want to be good at bowling. I almost quit bowling because I wasn't good at it. The day my wife beat me, I said, I'm done with bowling forever. Bowling is definitely a sport that a girl could beat you in, okay? It happens. There's 2 sports, bowling and chess. If they could beat you in those, okay? No, I'm just kidding. They could beat you in lots of things. But bowling, I've never been good at. I'm just not going to do it because I'm not good at it. Every once in a while I'll do it, but I don't have confidence that I'm good at it because consistency builds confidence. Now, if I went down and I was at the bowling alley at midnight every single night and I was bowling, and all of a sudden I'm bowling 100. I'm getting up to 100, and then I'm bowling 150, and then 200 and 225. Man, I'm having some confidence. I'll be calling anybody in this church out. Come on, let's go bowling, right? Right now, I don't want to go bowling with anybody because I don't want them to see my 85, right? I don't want them to see that. So your consistency builds confidence. There's some things you might be able to hit and miss and be okay at every once in a while. Like I might be able to every once in a while, like every once in a blue moon, which I've never actually seen a blue moon, but once in a blue moon, I might be able to hit 160, right? But I'm not confident in that because I'm not consistent in practicing to do that. Confidence is important. Matter of fact, we're told in Hebrews chapter 10, it says, therefore, do not cast away your confidence, which has great reward. For you have need of endurance. Here we go again. So that after you've done the will of God, you may receive the promise. Wow. Don't throw away your confidence. It has great reward. Why? Because you have need of endurance. Consistency. When I used to run track and field, I didn't just go to the race, but I practiced every day to go to the race. Consistency. Right? Your consistency will build your confidence in who you are in God. When you consistently have victories as a Christian, then you will have confidence in areas you've never had confidence in before. But you can't have it by inconsistency. One day I'm doing this and one day I'm doing that. So the devil goes, I'm fine with a yo-yo. I'm fine with that. Just go back and forth, a yo-yo, up and down all the time, up and down all the time, up and down all the time. Matter of fact, the devil likes, he's walking you like a dog, walk him like a dog, walk him like a dog, right? Round the world, right? 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 I mean, the devil ain't got no problem with that. He doesn't mind your inconsistency. He can play with you as long as you're inconsistent, but when you put your foot down, you say, no, I'm going to be consistent in my spiritual walk. I'm going to have confidence in who I am in God, and no devil in hell will be able to get me and take me anywhere but where I'm supposed to go in God. When you get to that place, how do I get there, Pastor? Through consistency.